Okay. Oh, hello there. Hello. Hello, Melanie. Nice to see you there. Oh, we're a bit bright today, aren't we? It's lovely to have the sunshine. I wonder what happens if I pull that across a little bit. Anyway, can you see me well enough? Do let me know. Just have to verify that I am myself for Google. I'm not sure that I am, but I think I am. So there we go. Do say hello, whoever's here on the chat. Just put in a hello. Can you see me? I look very misty. Loud and clear. Okay. Hello. Good. Okay. Excellent. Tabitha. Excellent. Nice to see you. Fantastic. Okay. Well, I'll leave it as it is because otherwise we're going to be fiddling around with that all the time. Sean. Hello. Good. Thank you. Nancy. Oh, hello. Nice to see you there, Nancy. Nice to see you. Thank you. Thank you for being such a loyal follower. Darcy. Hello. Minnesota. Fantastic. JF. Whoa, round of applause for JF. Thank you. JF will be moderating today. Manfully in command of the chat. Anyway, right. Gosh, I look. It's a different room. I'll tell you a little bit about all of that in a minute. What are we going to be doing today? The main thing that I put as the kind of headline that we're going to be looking at today is some of the channeling that I did from Merlin, my guide. Yes, I'm in the new office, Nancy. Channeling from my guide that I did some 10 years ago. Now we'll be looking at that a bit later on because I've also got some admin stuff to go through, which I want to share with you and to see that some of you might be interested in that. And I've got some great questions from Clive. Clive's a regular from all those months ago. And hello, Stuart, good to see you. And we will cover off those questions from Clive and see where we go. Oh dear. I feel very rusty. This is really weird. You know, I mean, some of you will be aware that I do quite a few podcasts and things these days, and doing the podcast, being interviewed by somebody, is so completely different to sitting here with you in the chat, which is lovely. But I've forgotten what this was like. So the last time we did this was back in March. What's been happening since? Why did I disappear? I seem to do this with a regular occasion. It seems to be a regular occurrence. Nearly every year I kind of disappear. What happened this year was basically that last live was in March, and around about that same time, we had builders come in to do some work on the house, and they left 5 months later. So 5 months of building works, which is a fairly extensive amount of change going on here. We had some re-roofing done. Obviously, I've changed offices, so this members will know. Members that sign up on the monthly membership scheme for the channel know I've been updating them about the works. So this is the new office, but we've also had a new bathroom put in, new staircase put in, roof lights put in, so we've got more light coming into the cottage. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of dust. But anyway, it's been worth it, and it's fabulous to be back here and to be in this office. And this is a really lovely space to work in. It's actually directly above the old space where I used to be. So any of you that are Paul Selig fans, you might appreciate the humor of the fact that I'm now in the room above my old office, or what we might call the upper room. No, just throw that in for your amusement. But let's see. Paul Selig, by the way, is coming back to the channel for another interview. I think it's in early November. So Paul will be with us at some point in November. Also got RJ Spina. RJ Spina has gone down really well. The interview I did with him. Hi, Steve. Good to see you. Did with him some months ago. He's coming back in October, so he'll be with us in October. And I will just tell you this. Because if any of you know Dr. James R. Doty, Into the Magic Shop, bit of a plug for his book. Dr. James R. Doty is a neurosurgeon. That I recommend as a book. Easy read, brilliant book. He's a neurosurgeon. He's going to be with us next year. We're going to come in for a chat, which will be fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to that. And you won't hear me stop mentioning his name between now and next summer because he's brilliant. Right. So, um, so I mentioned earlier on that I was dropping videos about the works and the progress here and stuff, and those are to members. So if any of you that are on the chat today or watching the playback want to become members, membership is different to subscription. To subscribe, obviously subscribers are free. Membership is £5 per month. I get half of that basically. The other half goes to YouTube, and that's fine. What I try to do is, the intention was to upload a video a week. I can't do that. I can't sustain that kind of upload. But I try to keep members up to date with what's going on, and we have more intimate conversations in the videos. And I answer questions specifically on there as well from anybody that has questions about their own spiritual development and their path. Look, I'm not the answer to everything, of course, but as you know, most of you regulars, all I do here is share my experience, and it seems to resonate with a lot of you. So that's, terrific. So that's what I do on those videos for the members. I have been tending to do those more regularly. So over these last 5 months, membership videos have gone up where I haven't appeared on the public channel. But it's there if you want to look into that. You don't have to sign up forever. Just pop in for a month and see what's going on. There's some quite nice, historical archive videos on there for you if you like. That sort of thing. Right. So little bit of admin before we get into Clive's questions. I won't spend too long on this because I think a lot of you may well be on my mailing list, and you will have received probably yesterday a mailer talking about the next house healing course that I'm running. The course is the only one of its type that I run, and I do it now about once a year. So it's a 10-month course. So let me just tell you a little bit about it, because if we get passing interest from people that haven't come onto the channel before, when they watch the playback, they might be the ones that want to come on board that course. So be patient with me, guys. I know you know all about it, but this course, let me just read you a little endorsement that actually an ex-student wrote on Facebook today, which actually I was quite touched by. Bless her. This is from a lady called Tess. And Tess wrote, I'll paraphrase slightly. She's on her Facebook. She's put, if anyone is looking for a course to develop yourself, your career, or learn new skills, I would highly recommend the teacher I studied with, Tim Walter, and his house healing course. She says, following many of the skills I developed on this course, I was able to develop my own pathway in providing spiritual services, and I'm really grateful for all the experience, the knowledge passed down, and the people that I connected with on the course. It's primarily focused on house healing, yet provides so many fundamental tools in understanding about the spiritual dimensions, energy, earth energy, chakras, how to bring healing in many dimensions. So that was a nice sort of unwarranted, unsolicited endorsement from Tess. And it sort of summarizes what the course is about. Because it's, yes, we go through 50 section headings that we can douse for remotely when we're interrogating a space. Yes, we go through that and we present it in a way that is acceptable for a client. So you learn about how to work with a client and how to present yourself professionally. So if you want to step out as a professional house healer, you can do at the end of this course. Most of the people that join the course have had some experience of well-being, being involved in well-being practitionery. That's not a word, but it'll do. You know what I mean. That's great, but you don't need to have had that level of experience to join the course and to make the most of it. We've actually this year got got a real beginner. He is currently, hopefully, practicing his dowsing, and it'll be really exciting. He's a youngster as well. He's also my son, so that's nice. So that'll be lovely. It'll be a bit weird, but it's nice. And it's great that the youngsters, I mean, he's 30, so it's great that the youngsters are actually starting to pick this up and really running with it. Now, the other thing I'd like to mention, I'll come back to this in a sec, and then we'll move on to Clive's questions, I promise, and then we'll get on to Merlin's stuff, and we'll see whether anything comes through from Merlin directly today during the live as well. But the other thing I wanted to mention was that yesterday I had a conversation, I had an interview with Gary Vasey, who some of you will be familiar with. Gary Vasey is a really, really great, enthusiastic dowser. He's based over near, excuse me, Gary, I keep forgetting where it is. I keep thinking it's Chechnya, but it's near Prague-ish. It's probably a few hundred miles from Prague, but it's in that part of Europe. He's been doing a lot of work, a lot of dowsing. He puts a lot of videos on his channel about his exploits and what he finds and how he finds them. JF, I sent you a little link actually to the interview that Gary is running on YouTube tomorrow night. If you have, there it is, great, well done, fantastic, excellent. So that will be well worth a watch, because it will tie in actually quite nicely to what we're talking about today. And one of the reasons that sprang to mind then was because I do mention how the younger generations are really already in tune with what we, what us folk are diving into all the time and trying to encourage them to learn about. But yeah, yes, and Gary is also doing a talk in the Earth Energies group that Melanie is involved in. Melanie is one of the organizers of a very interesting group. I haven't yet managed to find the time to go along live to the presentations, but it's a really great group, and they've got some lovely, really good speakers. Adrian's going a lot at giving us a talk, and they've had some excellent speakers in the past as well. So if anybody wants to know more about that, then maybe Melanie will, Melanie, if you want to, you can put a link up to a contact thing, whatever you want, in the chat for anybody that's picking this up on playback as well. So coming back round to that course, promise just 2 more minutes on this. The course, we follow the work as it's set out in Adrian's books, the 2 Heal Your Home books, but we dive into it as deeply as anybody in the groups really want to go, and we look at what the implications are of what we're finding, what the implications of what we're doing actually is, in terms of what does that mean I am as a spiritual being having a human experience. That's the key thing of the course. So although it's about house healing, it's about the structure of the 50 section headings, it's actually a spiritual development course, and it is deceptively simple, but where we go with it can be absolutely wonderful, quite frankly. And yeah, several students have called it life-changing in the past. I'm not going to say any more about it, except this one thing, and then I promise we move on. The course, as Tess alluded to in that endorsement that I read out earlier on, it gives you it builds your confidence to understand and shift your awareness, so that in the future, whatever you want to do, you come at it from a different perspective. That really is the fundamental. And it's 10 months, because actually you go on a journey. It's like a television series. You are taken on a journey by your own intuitive self, by your guides that work with you. And what I do is I help you learn from your guides. You learn from the management what the management wants you to learn at that point, and what you're ready for at that time. I facilitate. I'm not really the teacher. I kind of am, but so it's not like saying, right, this means you can now, it's not like doing a course on building a brick wall. You go out and then you build a brick wall. what this does is means this is a course about learning how to build a house, and you decide how you want to build the house. That will do. Right, I'm off. Okay, no, I'm not off. I'm moving on. So now then, let's move on to, just looking at my notes here, Clive's comments, right? Clive's a good man. Clive's a loyal follower. Bless him. Such patience. Thank you so much for sending these through, Clive. Because now these questions actually are interesting because they will lead us from the house healing conversation through to where we're going after we've looked at these questions. And I would say that please, anybody that's got any questions on any aspect, either of what we're talking about or anything that kind of springs to mind, and they want to say, well, what do you think about this? Just put it in the Dixie, hey man, put it in the chat and we'll pick it up as we go along. And if I miss it, then JF will make sure I get to it and see it. Dixie, got to mention you. Well done, mate. Middle of the night in Australia. Fantastic. Cracking. So no, I won't ask. Well, go on then. Dixie, have you got the second one yet, or are you still looking after the first little one? Maybe that's the sore point. Maybe I shouldn't have asked. I don't mean to be personal, but you know where I'm going. Thanks. So Clive's questions, right? Clive's got 3 questions. The first one is, when the spirit of place / land, spirit of land, is in disagreement, ? He puts in there, with the spirit of your house or your home, can that be harmonized with debate on your part? Or do you have to push this upstairs to the management? Hi. Hello, Jen. Nice to see you. Cool. Dixie, one and done, eh? Good man. All right, that's fine. So, when the spirit of place or the land is in disagreement with the spirit of the house or the home, can it be harmonized with debate on your part as the house healer? Or do you have to push this upstairs to the management? So it's an interesting question, this. And I've been thinking quite a lot about this since this came through on the email. And I don't think I've ever experienced directly a situation where the spirit of place is in disagreement with the spirit of the house or the home. Now, I'm just going to take this apart a little bit and say that the spirit of land, that's the spirit of place. That's what we would definitely call it, the spirit of place, which is the personality of the land. The land will talk to us when we ask it questions. So that's the spirit of place. The spirit of the house or the home. Now I'm going to take this as Clive meaning actually the spirit of the space within the house, which is the guardian energy personality of the house, rather than the actual building itself. Now it might be, Clive, do correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure there whether you're asking about the spirit of the actual building itself, the fabric, the bricks and mortar, because the house itself will have a personality that you can access and talk with, as has the land. But the most useful one to talk to from a house healing point of view is the guardian energy of the space within it. So this space, this invisible stuff that we live in. So it's that one, right? Okay. So I'm going with the guardian energy of the space, right? Now, so what we can find, what we do find a lot, is that the spirit of the land is upset by what is going on above it, so on its surface, right? The way that I always feel about this sort of interaction, the conversation that takes place when I'm personally working with the spirit of place, with the spirit of the land, is that it is a very dense, slow, limited it's limited in the way that it can impart information, or it wants to impart information, compared to, and it's only in comparison to, the personality of the guardian of the space, who, because I think because of my history with that being how I got into all of this stuff, was because I met that guardian of space in the old house, and had years of talking to her. Then I feel a lot more affinity with the guardians of the space. So it's a lot easier to talk to them like they were standing there. So if we think about the fact that the spirit of the land can be upset by what is going on above and not understand what's going on above, then that could be interpreted as being in disagreement with what Clive describes as the spirit of the house, so the energy of the home. Now, but in my experience, in my reality, I wouldn't describe that as being in disagreement. I would describe that as being actually a problem that the spirit of the land has, and it's a different picture to what is being presented by the guardian of the space, the spirit of the space, the spirit of the house, right? And so therefore what I would be doing would be talking to the spirit of the land to try to sort out and find out what is it that specifically is not happy about, and therefore have that conversation, establish, is it anything that I can do with by inviting the management in to change things? Is it something that the owners of the house can physically do, or even if they don't want to, it might be an option that the spirit of land says, well, I'd like that, that'd be nice. It might be that the owners have dug a blinking great pond, where the spirit of the land decides, what's that all about? I don't know what's that doing there? If the spirit of the land wants that filled in, for example, then it's fairly likely that the owners of the property, the human beings, are not going to want to fill in their very expensive pond, but there can be a compromise reached then at that point. Now, that's a very practical example, but that, I think, Clive, is more the sort of situation. So I would look at it as being more about what's the problem that the spirit of land has got, not. But I don't know. I mean, does that sort of clarify the situation that you're asking about, Clive, or not? We'll move on and work as I wait for Clive's response. He might have left the room, of course. I'm not sure whether that was clear, but anyway, there you go. So let's just move on to the next question. Hopefully that has clarified something that Clive. I wonder if there's a refresh button. No, I don't know. Oh, okay, hang on. Okay, Adam, hello. Let's just move on to your question, Adam. Richmond, QC, yeah, Canada. Hey, have you encountered a worldwide grid of 382 points, about 9 meters below the ground, among them 146 vortices managed by Gaia? Among those 13 arrays of 11 vortices. Wow, that's okay, cool. Great question, Adam, but I'm not sure that I can answer that here and now. And I would say, no, I haven't come across that grid yet. I'm not a great, it might sound a bit weird, but I'm not a great grid expert. There are a lot of different grids, and you may well have got hold of one there. Yeah, sorry, that was really short, and it's your first time here, so that was not really what you want. But look. If you go to Facebook, be lots of people on here that know this group. There's a group that is run by Stuart Dow. What's it called, guys? Earth Energy Lays. Sean, you'll know what this group is called. Pop, if you can, Sean, pop this, if you're still with us, pop the name of the Facebook group that Stuart Dow runs, and yes, and Adam can pick that up. If you could find that, Sean, that would be brilliant, because that's exactly the sort of group that, Adam, you would find really helpful. And pop back between that conversation and pop in here and let us know what you're doing, what you're up to, because that sounds terrific. Anything, I mean, all of these grids, Gaia as a sentient entity will be The sentience that Gaia has, as far as I'm concerned, is a devic sentience, a devic consciousness. So, meaning it's connected to both the, as far as I'm concerned, connected to both the angelic realm, because the angels are connected to the architecture of the planet, and also to the nature spirits, the elementals, and all of those various beings that are at that level of consciousness. So all of these grids are integrated, and I mean, like the movie Avatar, if we want to go down that route, everything has that connection, and everything sits in our perception. Everything is separated out and we see it as separate, but it's not really any of that separation. That doesn't really exist when we look at it either from Gaia's point of view, looking up at everything that is her, or if we look at it from the very spiritual level, from what I call the management, and look down through the layers of angelic realms and all the spirit activity, and then through to the denseness of our physical realm. It's not separate. This is not separate. It's only us in our awareness as a human being that identifies things as separate. But what it means is, what it means, sorry, I was just looking at Sean's comment, but that's the group. That's fantastic, Lays. What it means is that, okay, what's really interesting is that you might have picked out a specific set of vibrations, specific resonance, and therefore, if it's a new grid that other dowsers haven't found before, fantastic, brilliant, really exciting. Because what is that saying about the way that you see the world? What is it saying about your connection to Gaia? What is it saying that you have latched onto that you can share with others around you? Right? That's the exciting thing about it, right? Because it's, yes, we all experience this individual consciousness, and our point of awareness is completely different and separate. But as new information comes into everybody's awareness, into a group's awareness, if the majority of a group, let's say a population of a planet, buy into that concept and they say, yes, this is good stuff, this is what we align to. Oh, my candle's just gone out. Sorry, the house isn't on fire, so my candle has just gone out. If they align into that and they buy into that, and that becomes part of their belief system, then that is what the reality then is experienced by all, right? Fantastic. Let me just catch up on the chat a second. Hang on, and we'll come back to Clive. I can see what you're saying, but new built houses, spirits of place, or an old farmland. So do we look at the new house, new spirit, learning, hope, clear? Right, okay. So what Clive is doing is obviously looking into, okay, right. So Merlin is answering traditionally when a new house was built, certain foundational rituals were carried out in the spirit of place. We just did this as we are building a new studio here. Yeah, so that, what Merlin is describing there for Clive is a great way of keeping the spirit of land informed about what is going on, so that you're actually getting everybody. You're getting everything, every aspect of creation on side and harmonious. If you've got a case where the new builds, and this is very typical. This is exactly what I was trying to describe earlier on, Clive, where you can have a new build. Let's say it's built on a floodplain, because typically they are these days, stupidly. Spirit of land goes, what's going on up there? Why is that? What's going on? What is going on? And then as a house healer, you go in and explain to them to the spirit of land what is going on. And if an offering is required, then that's fine. You can make that offering. You can do a little ceremony. All of these things, ceremonies and offerings, are all ways of harmonizing and relating to the energy of the space. But each of the requirement for an offering or a ceremony, it's not textbook, this is what we do in this case. Let's look at page 36 to find the precise ceremony. It's because people will be drawn to do a ceremony because of their who they are and their experience up to that point. And that's fine. And that is as it should be, because that is the expression of the individual. And an individual that is heavy on ceremony, for example, and all of that kind of way of working with space and the subtle realms will be found for cases where that is required. Okay. Yeah, that's where we were going. Right. Let's look at Clive's second question. Nice. Yeah, great. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice, Melanie. Yeah, lovely. Okay. So now the other thing, of course, is that was it Sweden? I can't remember where I read this. In Sweden, they don't. Yeah, I think I was told this by a very intuitive guy that did a lot of work in Sweden, that they don't build roads or major developments without actually asking the land. You know, they do bring on the weird magic, you know, medicine man or woman to actually do that asking, or druid. So there are countries out there that actually have hugely more respectful attitude than we do over here in the UK. You're probably in the States, Adam. Obviously, Clive, you're in the UK. Right. Second question from Clive. Can you reach compromise with the spirit of your home if you should want to do things that are not compatible with them? Okay. Okay, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Okay, so I don't. Do you know what? I wouldn't force it personally. I wouldn't force it. Clive's question: can you reach compromise with the spirit of your home if you should want to do things that are not compatible with them? Okay, so let's say this. Let's say so here, right? We wanted to make use of an upstairs space that was under a cat slide roof. So the doorway to that space, it was a 10 foot by 10 foot ish, let's more or less square-ish room under a cat slide roof. The doorway was about that high, so it was like, that's insane. You know, it's great for kids to get in and out, but useless as part of the house. So we thought, well, let's make that into the bathroom, right? So this load of building works that we've been doing. I asked the spirit of the house, the guardian energy, and it was fine. It was like, yeah, no, that's fine, yeah, go ahead, you know, that's not a big deal. Now, if they'd said no, I wouldn't have gone ahead with that work. I would simply have not. I would have asked about it. I would have asked why was it not suitable, and I would assume that the reason that they had said no would say no to it would be for a very clear and specific reason, and therefore it would then be up to me to decide: do I agree with that? Do I recognize that as a valid reason for not doing it? But I tell you what, I wouldn't go against. If it was an obvious energy issue, I wouldn't go against the spirit of the house. I wouldn't go against that guardian energy, because it's like they're there on their side of the veil to work with the energies, and we're here on the physical side to work with the physical energies. But if what I want to do on the physical side is going to upset their side, why would I want to do that? It's not harmonious living. Compromise. Where's the compromise? But really, this sort of question, Clive, can you reach compromise with the spirit of home if you should want to do things that are not compatible with them? Really, you've got to look at it on an individual basis. If you're asking about a specific thing that you want to do in your house, or you have a client, say, that you're doing some dowsing for, you need to really evaluate and understand what it is, why upstairs is saying that's really not a good idea, and then you make your decisions based on that. But look, there's only been one time where I've actually gone against the recommendations of upstairs. I'm not going to go into it now because it's to do with the stuff we don't need to talk about. But I learned a lesson through going against what they were saying, but it wasn't a very comfortable lesson. Would I do it again? I think actually the answer to this question that I'm doing for you now is clear. Cool, good, excellent. So last question from Clive, then we'll move on to the Merlin stuff because we're halfway through. When do you find is best time to use remote dowsing, like phases of the moon, time of day? When do you find that it's the best time to use remote dowsing, Tim? Well, there's no doubt at all that the dark does mean that our senses are raised, as the physiology says. We are more sensitive when it's dark, but some people just don't like doing the work in the dark. That's their belief system. That's their issue. I say issue, and I'm not judging. I just think it's it's a shame, because actually I think that there's a lot of energy that is really interesting in the dark of the night that we can pick up on. I'm not saying it's the creepy stuff. I'm just saying there's a different. We're more able to pick up on a wider cross section of energies in the dark, because our main sense, the visual sense, is limited. So shamanic practice would suggest that the turn of the night, the turn of the evening time, or the morning time, as we go through the doorway of the day, or either way, as it's opening or closing, would be a powerful time to be doing the work. And that again is entirely up to you. If you're very scientifically minded, very logically minded, Clive, you might not actually find that these are influences that affect you very much. Again, your subjective personal responses is what really counts. So those are the suggestions, but look at it yourself. Look at it yourself, see how you get on. Trial and error, really. Okay, Clive, brilliant. I think those are three there that hopefully have helped you a little. So the title of this piece, the title of this live today, you have to come up with a title for YouTube. Oh, there it is. Going forward by looking back. I kind of quite like that as a title. It's what I put on the thumbnail, because quite apart from anything else, our modern society is so driven by the now. Do things now. Look, it's live now. It's instant. Do things. Get this now. Cook this meal. It'll be ready in 30 seconds. Won't do you any good, but it'll be ready in 30 seconds. It's all instant, right? And actually, I really like the fact that the work that we do is timeless. It's detached from time, and that's one of the things we learn is that you can't actually really base the work, the house healing work, on a time frame, on a time scale. You simply have to deal with stuff as it comes up in each moment, and you work with what is being shown to you in each moment. And this idea of time, it all stems from dear old Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, of course, and we can't talk about time or this subjective awareness of self and our spiritual selves without mentioning dear old Tolle. But what I really love is actually I've been going back to some of the channelings that I did in 2013. So that's 10 years ago. But then, of course, the guide that I'm working with was supposedly incarnate, bless him, Merlin, Merlin, as I call him, was in existence as an incarnate human being thousands of years ago. So we're going right back in time. But these blogs, these channelings, what I used to do in 2013, I don't know that any of you were actually on my mailing list then, but 2013, I would record, I would sit in trance mediumship, I don't know if that's a phrase, and allow my guide to come through and speak. And I would record those channelings and I would put them out as blogs, and I would be asking questions really of what was said. It was mostly, you know, practical day-to-day stuff. And this I've got a blog here from Merlin. I'm just going to read it, a little bit of it. Excuse the top of my head as I read this, but this is what I wrote. See how relevant you think this is as an introduction, really, okay? So it says, at the risk of being passé, it is now clear that we can see last year, which is 2012, as a time of personal and unique change for each of us, and recognize this was the true meaning of the Mayan prophecy, personal change. But here we are, several months into 2013, and things haven't settled down, have they? That's because we're experiencing the after effects of our choices from last winter. We are now living with the manifested output, that is the processing and settling of the change of heart that we chose. We are witnessing the effects of our choices, which are being felt strongly in our heart energy. No matter what situation you're in, I can guarantee that if you study the issues surrounding your current angst, it will be heart related. One more para. Our day-to-day realities reflect what is inside us, but this is in response to external influence. The scenarios in which our lives play out are co-created by us and the management. The tools used to create the external symbols of the issues we are processing inside our heads are the people we meet and the situations we experience. Our lives are refined and shaped to reflect our individual needs by our own belief systems that are largely developed while we are children. Now, that was written in 2013, a few months into 2013. As far as I'm concerned, that is completely appropriate for here we are now in 2023. We are, now what was it? We are witnessing the effects of our choices, which are being felt strongly in our heart energy. Now, and that's what we're doing. That's where we are. That's what a lot of the chaos that we have been living through this year, and the last year, a lot of the development, a lot of the waking up that people are doing, a lot of the change that we're experiencing is as a result of us living through our choices. Now, in these days of instant gratification and everything being thrown at us straight away, especially through social media and blah, 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 blah. In the 30th of July, 2013, I had some direct channeling from Merlin, and this is what he said on this occasion. This is partway through the message that he gave on that day. He said, why not outline your consideration for the fundamentals of dealing with life in the 21st century? Now, when he said, why not outline your consideration for the fundamentals, what he meant was, I'm going to tell you some. He says, points to consider, I suggest, are these. Number one. Now, we're going to go through 5 points here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the main 5 points, then we'll go back and look at them. Now, some of you, especially the regulars, will have maybe heard these 5 points. These are not, this is not rocket science. You know, this is actually very fundamental and simple, and most of you will recognize that actually what I like to do and the way that I come at all of this spiritual stuff, which actually can be quite mind-blowing, is to try and keep it as practical as possible and to keep it as simple as possible. And I definitely don't like to use big words where we don't need to use them. So Merlin was saying, number one, only deal with what is immediately in front of you. Only deal with what is immediately in front of you. Be aware when your mind races forwards to the future or hurtles back to the past. We'll come back to that in a minute. Obviously, each of these 5 points are fundamentally related to mindfulness, being mindful. And the reason for that is, of course, is that's the way we're designed to be. That's the point. We are supposed to be mindful, to be in the present moment. That is the point. So number one, only deal with what is immediately in front of you. Be aware when your mind races forwards to the future or hurtles back to the past. It's doing that all the time, isn't it? What are you doing after this in half an hour? What are you going to be doing? Putting the kettle on? I don't know. That's going to the future. Thinking back to the past. Why did that git cut me up on the way into the office yesterday? What am I going to do about that dent on the car? Mind going back, blah, blah, going backwards. Okay. Number two, only be aware of your immediate interactions through your senses with living beings. So how does that differ from number one? Well, what it's talking about is internet, television, the information that's coming through those devices. We'll come back to this in a minute. So number two, only be aware. In other words, focus your awareness, put your main emphasis on the immediate interactions through your senses with living beings. Come back to that in a minute. Number three, two very specifically mindful points. The first one on time. Be mindful of the way you interact, the way you feel, the way you sense, the way you perceive. Be mindful, aware of self. This gives you the opportunity to change, to stop, to readjust. That's what time does for you in the sense of applying the mindfulness to it. Number four, how you interact with everything. Yes, with gratitude, he says, but most importantly with honesty. Most importantly with honesty to yourself. Honesty to yourself will enable clarity in your interaction in being mindful. Honesty. We talk a lot about honesty, and we often talk about, well, you're lying, well, they're lying. Well, I don't believe they're telling the truth. A lot of people do basically exist by not telling the truth. I won't mention any politicians, but that's fine. In this work, you have to develop an incredible integrity of honesty, because otherwise you are going to be thrown around all over the place. And that honesty is with yourself. You have to understand what is going on. Yes, integrity. Melanie, you got the word. Right. Number five, we'll come back through these in a second. Live with compassion. Live with compassion. Where was that book? That book is all about the understanding of living with compassion. Into the Magic Shop, Dr. James R. Doty. Live with compassion. Be aware of financial matters, as this is one of the rules of your world in the 21st century, but do not live for money. Money is an aspect of everything. It is symbolic. It has been abused. It will continue to be abused. Right. So compassion and money, I'm not quite sure. He was obviously talking to me personally there at some point in 2013. I hope that I've kind of got the balance better now, but live with compassion. So therefore, your guiding rails, your guiding role is compassion from your heart and live in love. Right. Now, a couple of you have left the group, so it maybe is not what you want to hear or want to talk about. But let's just go back through those, because I'm not going to go back through those completely now, because we're going to have to finish our chat today in about 10 minutes. So, but let's go look at the first point and see where we go. Only deal with what is immediately in front of you. Be aware when your mind races forwards to the future or hurtles back to the past. Your ability to be connected to spirit occurs at every moment. These are his words, by the way. Don't remember, your ability to be connected to spirit occurs at every moment. Your ability is there at every moment. Whether we choose to connect in every moment is another matter completely. What he says is, your ability to be connected to spirit occurs at every moment. The vehicle in which you travel is your body, the cellular connection, the energetic connections, which interlink and intertwine and change with every moment. This is the truth. This is the truth. This is the truth. And he says that 3 times. And what he's actually getting at there, summed up in that only deal with what is immediately in front of you and living in the moment, is that you, although your perception stays constant, you are changing in every moment, in every decision, in every processing, paradoxical exchange that takes place between us as a creative being, the management as a creative being, as part of us, and the creation of this environment in which we exist in every moment, because it is a feedback loop that is constantly being created and generated. And what he's saying is, your presence remains, but really you are constantly changing. In those moments, you are constantly changing. Now, when we think about what we are as people, if we think about a channel, a medium, a spirit medium, let's say Paul Selig, when his guides come through and he speaks the words of his books, he speaks those books into creation, into form, really his role is to simply be that vase, that chalice, that awareness, to hold the energy that the management are making available to him. And we and in those moments, Paul is there, yes, but what we recognize is the guides. We recognize the guides' energy. The fundamental dominant energy is the guides, not Paul Selig. And the same can be said of us normal human beings when we get taken over by emotion, when we are consumed by grief. We are grief itself being present. Or when we are mad with anger, we are anger itself present. We are opportunities for these aspects of the universe to be present, to be manifested through a physical expression. And that's what he's saying here. That's what he's saying here when he's saying only deal with what is immediately in front of you, because the power of the connection, the spiritual connection is what I was about to say. The power of the connection is in dealing with the personal, not in dealing with what we assume to be happening in the wider nebulous world around us. The power, human beings are designed to interact with other physical things. So much stress is created by how we perceive, how we think things are, when there is actually no truth in those things being that state at all. So when we're working with spiritual energy, we are literally working absolutely in the present and in the moment, because there is nothing else that we can work with. There's nothing else that we are being able to be in connection with apart from what we're trying to access. So if we're accessing a property remotely through dowsing, then we are in that moment, we are doing that work. There is nothing else. It doesn't matter. And all that comes through is what is designed to come through, is supposed to come through, to have its own brief moment of life through us. That's not to say that we're massive big egos. It's completely the opposite. What I'm saying is that actually our presence, our being, it gives life to other forms of expression. We give life, we give expression to other forms of life. We get that's it. We give expression to other forms of life. Interesting. Guys, you've gone very quiet on me. Talk to me. Questions? JF, I was waiting for my man to come through, but he didn't overly show himself. Any questions from anybody? What is this? I think this is really interesting. Okay. Oh, all right. Good. Thanks. Good. Okay. Right. Fine. That's fine. I was just a little bit concerned that this might be kind of like really off topic. Okay. I think it's really, really useful. These are really, really useful and such simple points. And, you know, we all know about mindfulness, but if we can just think, you know, when we find ourselves being wound up, or, you know, in our or exhibiting our conditioned responses, you know, because if you think about it, our characters, our personal characters, are really built on conditioning. The ways that we respond to certain people, the ways that we respond to certain situations, that's all conditioning. And our physiology and psychology says, right, to minimize energy expenditure, we're going to go back onto plan A, which is this is how you respond and react in this moment. So there you go, that's your response. And you can find yourself reacting in the same old way because we are not being mindful. I'm not going to say you, because I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. We all do this. Let me just catch up on the chat now that you're chatting. Nice. Great, Adam. That's nice. Okay. Okay. Well, hopeful. Well, you know, hope, Nancy. There is always hope. Hopeful. There's always hope. Let me reference that conversation I had with Gary Vasey again when it's streamed tomorrow night on his channel. Nancy, take a look at that. Oh, okay. Well, if you got COVID and disappeared, okay. Well, if you weren't well, then yes, these things. This is one of the points we talk about, Gary and I. It's all very well coming up or you know, even channeling any wisdom that is helpful for us all and trying to live by it. But we're human as well, and part of being human is that we are you know, pretty deeply fallible, and we shouldn't actually get upset by that. For example, Nancy. And you're not necessarily upset, you're accepting that that's what happened. You were very hopeful and then you go, oh. Well, no, not necessarily. But one of the things is that, Nancy, is that self-sabotage is a very active force. Don't necessarily put personalities to this idea of attack. So when we get overwhelmed by something, it doesn't necessarily mean that we've actually got a personality attacking us or something like that. If we think of just you know, so let's say when you were in that week of really nice hopeful place, a very happy, let's just say that, you know, good. And then you had a week of being unwell and stuff and bad. So we got good and bad. As simple as that, right? I'm keeping this really like, sorry, this is nursery school time, elementary school time. I don't mean it to sound like that. But, you know, I think it's really important that we actually keep, that we consider that there are forces of good and bad all the time. They needn't necessarily be guided, structured forces from people, places, things, institutions per se, but they are influences on the individual experience of being alive. And being alive is an experience. So it's an experience. And if the influence of the bad stuff is outbalancing the good stuff, then you're going to feel crap. Not necessarily because something is attached to you or something is having a go at you. Now, yes, when we're doing the house healing, when we're doing psychic work, when we're doing subtle energy work, yes, we do accept that there are things that can attack, things that can latch, things that can drain, things that will be present. When somebody has a mental illness, for example, what we classify as mental illness, the chances are that they will also have a lot of detrimental energy beings that are dragging them down. Okay, so, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the beings are hunters. They're not prey, not like prey animals. A lot of this stuff is just there, and it's part of our experience of being alive as a human being and processing. And you know, life is that. I think really what I'm getting at there is we can talk a lot about the labels of the very woo, the very dark, the very heavy energies, the very nasty energies that we can come across, we can find, you know, there's no denying it. They can be personified, they can exist as personalities, but the mostly those are not what we find in usual day-to-day stuff. Okay. Well, why do we self-sabotage? Well, yes, why do we self-sabotage? Well, that's a whole massive question, Nancy. There can be all sorts of reasons, but a very common one is that simply we are not prepared. We are not subconsciously. We are not ready to accept that we are who we are. We are as good as we are. We are as capable as we can be. You know, there are all sorts of reasons why psychologically the human being will self-sabotage. And if, excuse me, if that human being is starting to resonate, exhibit characteristics that are not usual conditioned responses, right? Then actually what we find is that these aspects of self-sabotage really come to the fore, because it's part, we've talked about it a lot, is what we call the ego self. We're not saying it like big ego, that egotistical. We're saying the ego self, the human self, is designed to keep things framed, to keep things stuck as they are, to keep things in place in the form, the physical form of this dimension. And so the ego is programmed to say, well, that's new. We don't like that. That's no, we don't like that. No, back to as you were, please. And the way it makes you go back to how you were, please, is to make life difficult. That's the fundamental root of most self-sabotage. Oh, right. Bless, JF. Okay, cool. Yes, exactly, Tabitha. Yeah, yeah, yes. Wonderful. Nicely said, Tabitha. Look forward to speaking with you soon, Tabs. Not sure when that is, a couple of weeks, I think. Cool. Okay, so lovely, lovely. We're going to draw it to a close. We only started to go over again point one. Let's pick up the other points next month. Can't promise that we'll do this every month, but let's get to at least October and November and see how we get on. That would be good. And we will probably, I know that some of you were quite not excited, but looking forward to hearing from Merlin, because it's always quite interesting when he comes through and gives very direct guidance. I really wasn't sure whether he would or you know, but the fact is that he's not such a dominant guide of mine at the moment anyway. He will sometimes come through, and he obviously felt that today was not necessary. We're going back over his words, and he's said them 10 years ago. But actually, the thing that I think is actually quite powerful, and part of the reason that I did label it, you know, going forward, looking back, is because actually, you know, we're quite often told, well, don't look back. He says it. He says, don't look back. Don't look back. He says, concentrate on what is immediately in front of you. Yes, okay, but you know what? His words are as as relevant for us now as they were 10 years ago, because the now is the only point of reference, right? So he's right. We in our physical realm are looking back 10 years, but we're using his perception of now to bring his wisdom back through to the present, to achieve, to effect. There you go, Jen. Also, so you know, I just think that's lovely. It's beautiful. I also had the experience where I was looking back at some of these other channelings from him, and there was one, I can't remember. Oh, I know, I was doing another podcast for somebody, and the channel, the bit of information that I was reading on that morning, typing up, transcribing, was so appropriate for the conversation that occurred later in the afternoon. It was unbelievable. So his perception of time, the guide's perception of time, that aspect of the management that is there for us, is part of us, just beyond this realm, really, really, really does live in a, very different experience of time. Really does, and that's what we expect. He is, yeah. Fantastic. Okie dokie. I'm going to press the big red button. I hope that's been helpful. Well done, folks. If any of you, just a quick reminder, if any of you want to pick up the book, there's the jointly authored book by Adrian and I, Spirit and Earth, that's still out, going strong. And of course, if any of you want to know more about the house healing course, then please drop me a line, because we're going to be starting soon, and it would be a real shame if you missed the first lesson. Let's go. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you, JF. Well done. Good man. Love having you there. Thank you. Okay. So, folks, thank you for coming along. Thank you for being present. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for being you. Take care. Bye-bye.